Graduation Day, a short story from a collection of short stories titled 28 Minutes into the Future by Oxide. I was so proud of my daughter that even though I'd never met her, I wanted to spy on her one last time. As the anonymous sperm donor, I had no parental rights, but she was the only child I'd ever have. Today was her graduation. Her exit day. After 8 years at the Karl Marx Safe Space Educational Gulag, she had been exposed to everything the government information czars decided was appropriate for her to see. Even though it seems like yesterday, it was 8 years ago that she exited from high school. She was about to leave academia behind and become a productive adult member of our society. The faded red brick buildings were covered by student demand spray painted in a rainbow of colors. Nature provided air conditioning and heating through the multiple broken windows. I pulled my keyboard and monitor from my pocket and expanded them to full size. A quick touch brought up the Gulag map. The screen was full of glowing dots indicating the location of the privacy tracking chips implanted in all citizens at their birth. The signature of my daughter's chip showed her near the center of campus quad. Because privacy was important, she disabled public access to her selfie drone when she started at the Gulag. That delayed my search because I needed to drone hop the data streams among the government, university, public access, private, pirate, and selfie drones hovering over the campus. The first drone video feed that jumped on my screen hovered at the east edge of the quad, focused on a white woman lying motionless on the ground. The tears in her clothes and stab wounds on her torso and throat were visible from this angle. A group of heavily tattooed non-white men were pulling up their pants. It wasn't rape, because there hadn't been any rapes on campus since the government had banned white men and their rape culture from attending the Gulag. The courts had ruled that after centuries of oppression by the white male patriarchy, any actions by minorities were a legitimate form of political protest. I gasped with horror when I realized the races and genders were mixing in public when they normally stayed in their single color and gender safe spaces. Only the excitement of exit day would cause them to abandon the safe spaces they'd struggled so hard to acquire. Because of my white privilege, my education ended in high school, where I was trained as a programmer. 5 minutes into my first job, I became a criminal when I hacked into the national database and inserted a data hound to record anyone who sent a query into my record were required to donate sperm to the government sperm bank. My shameful white male heritage was linked to my record because all white males that survived to puberty and didn't have gender reassignment surgery were required to donate sperm to the government sperm bank. 2 years after my hack, a data query that I thought was a criminal investigation turned out to be a DNA search for red hair and green eyes. I was surprised any female would consider me a suitable donor because scientists were still unable to remove the crush gene, cisgender, racist, sexist, and homophobic, from white male DNA. A red-haired, green-eyed white woman selected my sperm because she wanted a red-haired, green-eyed daughter. Off in the distance, smoke rose from the Burning White Man Festival, being held in the rubble of the library. 30 years ago was the only time I viewed my daughter's mother. It was during the delivery and the following week because the afterbirth abortion activists live-streamed the event. They also streamed their attempts to convince the mother to terminate the parasitical growth that stole nourishment for 9 months from her body before it escaped from her womb. 9 months of reproductive slavery is mild compared to 21 years of child-rearing slavery that follows birth. The mother of my daughter resisted their demands for an abortion. She hired bodyguards to protect herself and my child. Any male that impregnates a female without asking for her permission is guilty of rape. Since I hadn't asked her for permission to violate the sanctity of her own ovum when she selected my sperm sample without my permission, the government ruled me guilty of rape, and had sent enforcers to execute me. In addition, the afterbirth abortion activists placed a reward for my death to prevent me from ever raping another woman again. I was running out of time, so I found a government drone hovering above the center of the campus quad. Piles of rocks were placed around the quad for when women, gays, or infidels needed to be stoned to death. Non-white men with scimitars wandered around the campus. The camera was focused on the inspirational school motto carved into the sidewalk: "Free speech is too valuable to waste on people who disagree with us." On the sidewalk nearby, someone had chalked messages for the student: "Kill Jews, kill white people, kill pigs." I was glad to see that even though diversity of thought was encouraged, no one had written anything hateful. As I hopped among the drones looking for my daughter, I noticed a man of color, wearing robes of many colors, stalking across the quad wielding a bloody scimitar. He screamed, "Allahu Akbar!" and then beheaded a woman who was not of color. I switched to another drone because I didn't want to invade his privacy. Once I started running, I'd never have a chance to check the government news sources to find out what the sword wielder's motives were. Before I hopped to another drone, I spotted my daughter, her red hair bright in the morning light. She was talking with another white woman. Both of them turned to face away from the beheading. The other woman pulled out a handgun and held it in her open palm like it was a snake about to strike. I jumped to a closer drone, zoomed in to read the engraving on the side. Use this gun to force the greedy 1% to share their wealth. I boosted the volume and filtered out the other sounds to hear their conversation. My daughter said, "How can you hold that thing? Guns are scary and evil." "I know, I don't want it, but I have no choice. Since I received my participation trophy in community activism and wealth distribution, it is my duty to use this thing to fight the greedy, oppressive, patriarchal system. It is unfortunate that the wealthy don't understand that this is for their own good and the good of society." Like all good citizens, I supported sharing the wealth. It was unfair for any person who wasn't a contributor to political campaigns or a hereditary member of the government to own more than anyone else. "My drone hasn't arrived yet. I wonder what my career will be." "I'm sure whatever career the government selects for you will be the right one. The government never makes mistakes." That makes me feel better. The other female looked around and whispered, "Today, I'm self-identifying as a lesbian Hispanic female. What race and gender are you today?" Wiping my sweaty palms on my pants, I breathed a sigh of relief. I hugged the screen and smiled. If I didn't know better, I would think she was scared. But with police, guns, and white males banned from campus, I knew there was nothing for her to be afraid of. I slapped my head and mentally apologized for providing them with crushed motives when they were only being sensitive to the privacy needs of the other individuals on campus. My daughter looked around and whispered, "Today, I'm self-identifying as a gay black male." I had to grin admiringly. White males are prohibited from self-identifying as anything other than themselves because of their white privilege and defective DNA. "Do be careful about cultural appropriation." "I will." They hugged each other without asking for permission. I shivered. If a white man hugged any female without written consent, he would be rightfully arrested and charged with rape. After they separated and wiped tears from their eyes, the official Gulag delivery drone paused in front of my daughter. It dropped a note and a participation trophy into her hands along with a gun. I zoomed in on the gun. "Use this gun to eliminate white privilege by eliminating all whites." The trophy was inscribed with the following words: "Congratulations. This trophy honors your occasional presence on campus while enrolled in the 8-year course of study on the evils of the crush white oppressors." She opened the note. "You are assigned to the afterbirth abortion activists to provide post-birth abortions to evil, oppressive white men. Your first assignment is the sperm donor rapist of your mother." While I accepted the rightness of her career and assignment, I was unhappy that it applied to me. My monitor caught the reflection of a tear rolling down my white face into my red beard. With my go bag on my shoulder, I rolled up my monitor and keyboard, stuffed them in my pocket. My daughter had grown up to be just like I pictured her mother. I was so proud of her.